It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood from coast to coast and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Joining me is Tanya Brown, an author, life coach, and advocate for mental health awareness. She's the sister of Nicole Brown Simpson and author of the new book, Finding Peace Amid the Chaos, My Escape from Depression and Suicide. Tanya is here to discuss how we can develop coping skills to manage stress, anxiety, depression, and how we can heal after loss. Tanya recently appeared on The Katie Couric Show and has been seen on Good Morning America, The Early Show, The Insider, and other national media outlets. She was recently featured in People magazine. Welcome, Tanya. It is so great to have you join me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. How exciting.
Tanya, this past week marked the 20th anniversary of your sister Nicole's murder, and losing a sibling is horrific enough, but you had to endure the loss in a very public way. What many people don't know is that years after that event, you suffered a breakdown, were hospitalized, and fought thoughts of suicide. Why do you think it took you so many years after Nicole's death for you to break?
You know, a lot of people think that it was just because of Nicole's murder. It was actually a compilation of everything that I had endured, everything from my youth. So that's battling with self-esteem, self-confidence. But things started happening when I was in high school, and I had to bury 6 friends and acquaintances of mine during my high school years. And back then, we didn't have crisis counselors like the kids have today. There's a crisis on the campuses. They're there. They're the first responders. With us, we had, okay, life has to go on. Our counselors were academic counselors. Where do you want to go to college after that? So we never had an opportunity or a guide to really, guide a path on how are you feeling? Let's process this death. This was a horrible accident. So what a lot of people do when they don't know where to go, or they don't want it, or they don't want to talk about it, or they don't want to process. In my case, I didn't know I really even needed to talk about it. I have World War II parents, pick up your bootstraps and carry on. So what I did, I suppressed my feelings, and that built up. And then 2 years after high school, my best friend Harissa got killed in a hit-and-run accident, and it was so it was so impactful in my mental health. It was my first bout of serious depression. So slowly but surely, at this point it's taking some time to really boil up. So all the losses that I lost in high school, then with Harissa's death, the boiling top was slowly coming. It was percolating. Fell into a huge depression for 2 years. Thoughts of suicide came into my mind. Then again, I thought I could carry on, but little did I know is that when a person is depressed, they don't eat, or they eat too much. They sleep, or they sleep too much. Well, I was eating too much, and I became an overeater. And this is what we see a lot today. We see, right now, there's an epidemic with heroin. So there's these kids who are taking these drugs to fill some sort of hole in their soul, and I was doing that with food. I was a total emotional eater. I didn't want to face the pain. I didn't want to go through whatever it is I was going through. I didn't even know what I was going through, to tell you the truth. All I knew is that I was sad. And so I continued to do that, and then something clicked where I was like, okay, I need a lifestyle change. Snapped out of it, and again, not addressing my pain. Just snapped out of it. I'm done doing what I'm doing, and I'm just going to go on to the next chapter of my life. And then in 1994, Nicole gets killed, and then that's when, as you can all imagine, that is what turned our life upside down. And like you said, it was very public. We didn't have a chance to really stop and breathe, and, we were so, immediately, overnight, there were cameras, media, public, phone calls, It was all over the news. I mean, literally, Joan, we did not have 1 minute to go, what the heck just happened? We were just thrust into it. Again, pick up the bootstraps. We've got kids to think about. We've got an estate to think about. We have the welfare of everybody around us. It was really crazy. So, again, we stuffed our pain. We stuffed our emotion, in other ways. Denise channeled it through the foundation. I channeled it through an abusive, controlling boyfriend. My sister Dominique immersed herself into work. So we all had our ways of not grieving, of keeping ourselves occupied. And that is what's happening with America today, is that we're not stopping ourselves. We're not sitting still. Or we don't even want to walk through the tornado of despair. And when we don't walk through the tornado of despair, you end up what happened to me 10 years after Nicole's murder. And then on October 9th, 2004, I flipped out. I snapped. I ruined relationships within my family. Next thing you know, I'm in a psych ward for 10 days. And it's not a fun place, but it was the biggest gift that was given to me. And the trigger was this. The trigger was the cancellation of my wedding 4 days before. So this is what I talk about. One of my tools is like, you've got to identify the pain. You've got to walk through the pain. You've got to walk through that tornado. And then even during that healing and after the healing, you got to identify what are your set-offs, what are your triggers. We allow people to set us off without setting a boundary. And I really want people to know how important that is, not only in your personal life, but in your professional life too, because it's very easy to be triggered by someone or something. And when it goes unaddressed, you snap in some way. You lash out in anger, you lash out in dysfunctional behavior, you can become violent. So it's very important for us to address our stuff as it comes up in our lives.
Tanya, I think sometimes when we go through life-changing events, we think we've grieved and we think that we've processed it. And we may on some level, but there's always a lot that's left there that goes undealt with. So what would you say are some of the warning signs that people should not ignore in themselves and in loved ones? What should we be watching out for?
There's this thing called complicated grief that I've been reading about. I'm not an expert in it. Complicated grief is when your life revolves around the death of your loved one. So it's the inability really to not let that person go. When I say it, allow yourself to let the person go, it's so you can move on. It doesn't mean that we need to forget. There are people who, after years, we're talking 20 years, 10 years, 20 years, where they haven't touched the room where somebody, lived. They idolize, they ruminate, they sit in a chair, and they, their life becomes completely debilitated because of this thing called complicated grief. I think also a very important thing is that a healthy grieving process, as you go through it, you cry a lot, and then you kind of giggle and all of this, and you remember. But also another sign of this, the unhealthy side of this, is when there's constant pain for years on end, constant pain, constant grief. It's important, like say for example, when somebody passes, a healthy grieving identifier, I guess, or indicator would be when somebody can talk to a loved one, have tears of sadness, but then also laugh at the funny stories. It's when we stay in the pain and we don't allow ourselves to experience joy. So we just need to give ourselves and allow ourselves to experience a little joy every day.
Now, Tanya, we've become a society of antidepressant takers. And this is really running rampant with our kids today, believe it or not. So many adolescents are on antidepressants. What do you think is happening? Are we just really looking for a quick fix, unable to do the work, or do we just not even know what work needs to be done?
I think what America is going through right now is this thing called immediate gratification. We see it with our texting. We see it with our technology. How come you're not calling me back right away? Where's the text message response? Everything needs to be right now. And, I think America is always willing to take a pill to make themselves feel better. I'm on medication, but I tell you, my medication is masking everything. It will help me balance and help me contain my emotions. Now, the thing is that if you don't have coping skills, You're still going to get depressed, and you're still going to experience anxiety. Will it be as severe as if you weren't on them? Probably not. But the thing is that if we don't have coping skills on how to talk to complicated people, how to have, how not to be intimidated, or how to control our anxieties, or how to control, just how to manage our life, we're too quick to take a pill instead of sitting in the silence, stopping for a moment. There are so many tools that we can do, everything from deep breathing in our own private space, or deep breathing when you're having a conversation that's making you irritated, everything from exercising. Now, with the antidepressant, you still need to exercise. You still need to get out there. You need to move. A pill can still keep you in bed. A pill can still make you sad. So it's really important to get control of your life. Go out there, go exercise, get moving, surround yourself with beautiful, positive people, and not exterior beautiful, not like the supermodel. I'm talking like people who are just like so fulfilled and so enlightened. You got to surround yourself with goodness, because this is your life, and you've got to really surround yourself with what makes you happy, because if you surround yourself with things that make you unhappy, you're going to be unhappy, and no pill will ever take care of that. A very important, dangerous thing is that people stop taking their medications once they think that they're feeling better. And that is very dangerous. That's when suicide comes in. Don't start medication without a doctor. Don't wean yourself off of medication without a doctor, because that's when, seriously, suicide plays a large role in medications.
Tanya, if any of our listeners are feeling overwhelmed or even having thoughts of suicide, are there any resources that you can offer where they can go to get some help?
Absolutely. If you yourself or somebody that you love is in a psychotic state, depressed, suicidal, or whatever, there's something called a psychiatric emergency team, and I believe every county has one. So that's one resource. Another one is NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's national. They're pretty much like in every city. They have free resources for family members to help them understand the dynamic of whatever that mental illness is. And then they also have peer-to-peer, where the people who are struggling have that support. There's outpatient programs, which are also called partial hospitalization. There's so many different resources. NAMI would probably be the best one, because they've got free resources. In acute situations, psychiatry emergency team. And if anybody needs more resources, they can feel free to contact me through my website at tanyabrown.net. And then I'll listen to them, and I'll find the best fit possible for them.
The book is Finding Peace Amid the Chaos, My Escape from Depression and Suicide by Tanya Brown. Tanya, thank you so much for being here with us today. This is a very difficult topic. So many people are going through a lot of different tragedies and a lot of painful experiences. And when you are in that situation, you tend to think that there is no hope. And your book and your story and your message tells us that there is hope and that it is possible to find peace during these difficult times in life. So if our listeners would like to get more information about Tanya, you can visit her website, tanyabrown.net. Again, Tanya, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joan. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back. It's time for Medical Minutes. Joining me today are Dr. Francisco Contreras and Daniel Kennedy, authors of the book 50 Critical Cancer Answers, Creating a Personal Plan to Tackling Cancer and Finding Renewed Health. They're here to discuss how to be prepared to handle a cancer diagnosis. Dr. Contreras is an integrative surgical oncologist and is the owner and director of Oasis of Hope Cancer Centers. Daniel Kennedy is a psycho-oncology counselor and is the CEO and director of counseling for Oasis of Hope. Together, they have written several books. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It's an honor.
Thank you.
You have cancer. Those are life-changing words that nobody wants to hear. We have no idea if or when cancer will strike, and many of us are afraid that it will. So, doctor, what is the first thing that someone should do when they hear those words?
I think there's so much misinformation about cancer, and people relate cancer to death, that cancer is a death sentence. The first thing that they need to realize is that it isn't, that there are so many options for patients, even with advanced cancers, and that the possibilities for survival are there because while there's life, there's always hope. And so that is one of the reasons we wanted to write this book, to provide practical information that gives hope to patients, because in this world that we live in today, cancer is a devastating diagnosis. So there's tremendous hope for patients that have received that diagnosis.
Daniel, why is it important to treat the whole person?
Well, science now has identified the relationship between our thoughts and the performance of our immune system. If the immune system is functioning 100%, it's virtually impossible to be diagnosed with cancer. But when we have stress or chronic illness due to stress, our defenses get lowered and cancer can start to proliferate in our body. So controlling our thoughts, and it's intuitive. If we have positive thoughts, our immune systems are boosted. If we have negative thoughts, our immune system is depressed.
Now, doctor, when you hear those words, you have cancer, we immediately, as you said, feel like our power's been taken away from us. Why is it important for us to be proactive, to be our own advocate during this journey?
That is a great question. We need to be proactive because, as Daniel was saying, our thought process is extremely defining as far as the action of our immune system. That is, our thoughts will either hamper or boost the quality and quantity of our immune system. So if we are completely convinced that we are going to die because of this disease, then your immune system is not going to work for you. Whereas if you possibly think, I'm going to do this and this and that, and then I'm going to allow God to do the rest, I will be then acting proactively in making my immune system work for me. Otherwise, you allow your immune system to actually shut down.
Doctor, what about being an advocate? How important is it for us to be in control of our fight?
You know, this is something that needs to change because we have been virtually taught, our culture today is, the doctor knows best and whatever the doctor says, that's what I'm going to do. The best patient is a patient that is an active partner in dealing or fighting disease. And that's one of the things that we convert our patients instead of, be sheeply, ask them to be very, very active in making the decisions because we as doctors are going to be recommending based on experience, but nobody knows their body better than the patients themselves. So it is very important to convert a patient into an active participant in their disease.
Doctor, what is the difference between cancer cure and cancer control? Has cancer become somewhat of a chronic disease these days? Are people able to really live with it and just control it?
Exactly, and that is precisely the difference. By definition, cure is when there's no tumor activity whatsoever. Control is when the tumor is there, but it's not really threatening the life of a patient. After 5 years, a patient is going to say, well, it really doesn't matter to me that I am not cured, but I am enjoying a quality of life that is similar to when I didn't know that I had cancer. So there are patients that came to us, for instance, that were told you're going to die in 6 months and in a year, and then 25 years later they're still alive, but if we take x-rays, they still have tumors there, but those tumors are not life-threatening to them anymore. So that's the difference. Managing cancer is a way to convert, as you said, a terminal, quote-unquote, disease into a chronic disease like diabetes or heart disease that you can live for many, many years with them.
Daniel, is it possible for someone who's been through the fight of cancer and knows that tumor still remains to live a normal life psychologically? Can they do that?
Yes, and we work at Oasis of Hope to help people develop a mentality of being a victor over cancer versus a victim of cancer. We talk a lot about life after cancer. We talk about discovering meaning through the process of cancer. But the first thing that we do is we help people overcome the misconception that cancer equals a death sentence. It does not. There's many people that are victorious over cancer. So we teach our patients to make the bold statement that I am not dying from cancer, but I'm dealing with cancer. I am living and I'm dealing with cancer. And two of the things that we do to help people, one, we wrote this book, and we interviewed our patients that are victorious over cancers, and we came up with the 50 most critical cancer questions people are asking, need to know, and then we wrote the book, 50 Critical Cancer Answers. And part of the reason why we wrote this book was because there are facts that oncologists never tell their patients. For example, it's published in the medical journals that in advanced stage 4 cancer, chemotherapy only contributes to the 5-year survival by 2.1%. Oncologist is never going to tell the patient that, but we do in our book, and then we talk about all the other things that a person can do to increase their probability of survival.
Now, Daniel, you just mentioned chemotherapy. Doctor, for people that are familiar with the traditional treatments, chemotherapy, radiation, what are some other options that are available? And very quickly, before we run out of time, what are some of them that they should be looking into?
Well, one of them is high-dose vitamin C, which has proven by the NIH to work as chemotherapy if the proper environment is achieved. And the second one is laetral, which has been used and misused for over 50 years, but we have a lot of experience with it. It's a completely natural anti-tumor agent obtained from the apricot pit.
The book is 50 Critical Cancer Answers, Creating a Personal Plan to Tackling Cancer and Finding Renewed Health. If you'd like more information, you can visit their website, oasisofhope.com. Daniel and Doctor, thank you so much for being here with us today. I am so happy to have had you here to help people really understand that they can get their power back, that they have options, and as you said, it is not a death sentence. So thank you for being here.
You're very welcome. God bless.
Thank you for sharing the hope.
We'll be right back.
More than 20% of the U.S. population will suffer from allergies this year. Many people will reach for an antihistamine, but did you know that there are other options? Hi, I'm Dr. Lynn Corrigan. Wash your linens weekly in hot water to eliminate dust mites. Look at your diet and eliminate dairy. Several studies have shown that it will improve your sinus symptoms. Add omega-3 fatty acids to your diet in the form of cold water fish, nuts, and ground flaxseed. The omega-3 fatty acids work as an anti-inflammatory and increase your intake of antioxidants by eating more organic fruits, especially berries and vegetables. Quercetin is found in apples, onions, and citrus fruits. It is also available in capsule form, and it should be taken throughout the allergy season to prevent symptoms before they start. A botanical such as stinging nettle can improve nasal symptoms, and butterbur has been shown to be effective and has less side effects than some of the over-the-counter antihistamines. Finally, consider Chinese herbs and acupuncture. The combination has been shown to be very helpful for nasal allergies. For more information, call 201-487-4600 or visit us on the web at theactivecenterforhealthandwellness.com. Live well and be well. I'm Dr. Lynn Corrigan.
We all want to live a happy, productive life, but sometimes we just need a little help. Our Coach on Call experts provide strategies to help you cultivate effective life skills. Joining me today is Karen O'Sullivan, a holistic health coach and founder of Appetites for Life. Karen supports women who want a positive connection with food and with themselves, and she encourages them to adopt a mindful eating approach to food. Welcome, Karen. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Karen, in today's society, it seems like we are always in a rush. We're always trying to multitask. And when it comes to eating, many of us throw down a donut or a bagel. We eat while watching television, working, or reading. Why is this unconscious eating so detrimental to our health?
Well, Joan, for many people, the term conscious eating may be something they have never heard before. Nowadays, eating is more of an afterthought than a ritual. In the past, family and friends had cooked together and they ate meals together. They shared laughter and stories at the dinner table, and they probably ate a lot slower than we do these days. Eating in this atmosphere is much different than grabbing a sandwich from a street corner market or eating on the go or eating a microwave meal in front of the computer. It's different for several reasons. One, we don't pay attention to our food, so we're more inclined to eat quickly, chew less, and eat more. Two, Under these more stressful circumstances, our bodies don't digest food properly. So that causes digestive upset like gas or bloating or more serious conditions in the long run. And 3, we don't give ourselves a chance to check in with how we feel, to ask, are we full? Are we finished? Do we need to eat more or less? Do we even like the food that we're eating? And we don't really give ourselves a chance to taste the food, and we don't engage all our senses.
So, Karen, what exactly is conscious eating?
Well, the opposite of the above. Paying attention to your food, cooking with love, sitting down and chewing. Food is meant to be shared and is meant to be savored. It is nourishment for ourselves, but it's also nourishment for our minds and our spirits. You think and act differently when you eat a greasy burger than when you have a salad or a plate of broccoli. Conscious eating is being aware of how you feel when you eat and after you eat. It is being aware of what foods agree with your body and what don't. And finally, conscious eating is about connecting with our food, which is our life source.
So how do we go about eating mindfully?
Well, let me tell you about a story about a client I had. Every day after work, she would stop in the pastry shop on the way home and grab a piece of chocolate cake. She would eat it on the way to the subway station. When she first started working with me, she guarded that chocolate cake with all her might and begged me not to take it away. I told her that she could continue to have it, but I asked her to do one thing for me, to eat it at the shop, sitting down, and putting her fork down in between bites and consciously chewing each piece. She did this twice, came back to me and said, you know what? I don't think I like that chocolate cake anymore. It tasted so fake. That is eating mindfully. When we focus our attention on our food and the meal, and we're not distracted by other things, we can actually experience the food and taste it. So I want to share with you just 4 of my mindful eating tips. First is sit down. Sitting down helps us slow down. The second is to chew. Digestion begins in the mouth, so help your stomach and your intestines out by chewing first. The more work you do in your mouth, the less work that they have to do down there. The third is to put your fork down in between bites. This sets a healthy pace and helps you focus more on your plate. So when we eat very quickly, we end to take in more food and more calories, and that can lead to weight gain. And the last is to eat undistracted by phones, TVs, computers, etc. This is such a challenge in today's world. But pay attention to the food you have and the people you are with. And if you absolutely have to eat while working, then be sure to do the first 3 steps. So sit down, slow down, and chew.
Karen, thank you for joining us today and for providing this important life-changing information. If our listeners would like to get more information about Karen, you can visit her website, appetitesforlife.com. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, take part in the book club, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.